Well, good morning. I should say we're here at Harris Park again with Ron Abrams with the Mountain Valley Mental Health Center, located in Jasper. But we're going to talk about some other places and things about this program that I'm sure most of us don't know, and we're going to find out today. And we're glad to have you once again, viewing our program. Ron, it's good to have you, and I appreciate you coming up.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it.
Well, what I want to talk about today are a lot of things. First of all, what are all the cities and counties that you cover?
We cover a 3-county area out of our local office. We cover the Marion, Grundy, and Sequatchie counties out of our office. We have an office in Tracy City, and we have an office here in Dunlap, and we have an office in Jasper. But our company, as far as the size of our company, we cover 31 counties in the state of Tennessee, so nearly a third of the state.
Oh, okay.
And
good.
we have a total of, I think, 19 offices across the state.
Well, that's great. That's a good coverage area.
Yeah,
and especially for here. Well, I know a lot of people, when they think about mental health, as we were talking about earlier, they think that it's for mentally ill people. Mm-hmm. But y'all offer a lot more services than just for mentally ill people.
Yes, we do. We have actually the mental health part of it. We have care management services, therapy services, medication services, and we can talk a little bit more about that later on. But we do have other services that include MASH, what we call MASH services for the veterans, and helping the veterans find housing. We have other grant services that play into that also. We work with the juvenile court system and the law offices and so forth for trying to keep people out of the court system. So we do have like a pre-arrest diversion type program. So we do have quite a bit of other services. Of course, our care managers do a lot of services with other folks, with the hooking them up to like transportation services in the county, home services, housing services, all of those. So we do a lot of other services, here in the county, and we like that because that basically gets the word out, that we are just not just specifically on just the mental health side of things. We also do a lot of linkage and primarily linkage work with the primary care doctors in the area, and we have recently actually been given a state mandate by the governor's office that they want to link the physical health services with the mental health services and do a better job of integrating those together. So we work a lot with the physical health doctors, the primary care doctors in the area, to deal with the physical health issues of a lot of the clients that we have too. So we do a lot of other type things other than just mental health. So.
Well, do you see, since you mentioned physical health, do you see a lot of patients who maybe because they've had bad physical health lean over into the mental health? Is it affected?
Yes, very much, because it's so integrated, and it's something that we've known for years and years, and we've tried to get services for our clients for years, because on a national average, mental health clients pass away about 20 to 25 years before kind of regular people that don't have mental health issues.
Wow.
It's staggering, and basically they just don't take care of their physical health as much as we'd like to see. So that's one of the mandates that the governor's office has sent out, that we need to integrate that, and we need to get some physical health care for our folks. So
Well, I know, being a liver transplant patient myself, and going through a lot of things, I know sometimes it's really hard. You think about a lot of things, and you think about all the medicine you have to take, and all the steps you have to take, and all the doctor's visits and everything, and I just took it a day at a time. But a lot of people are not that way. They just it gets them down because they're not like they used to be,
Right.
you know,
right.
and they want to be.
And they get overwhelmed. And you know, like you said, anytime you disrupt that balance, you know, we all want to maintain that balance of life. And anytime we disrupt that, no matter what it is, you know, it has a profound impact on our mental health, you know, and how well we function, you know, out there. My wife was involved in a very serious motor vehicle accident about 10 years ago. And that really disrupted my mental health, you know.
Yeah.
And everything else, it disrupts life, you know,
Yeah.
in general. So it has a profound effect.
I want to apologize to our audience because we are at Harris Park and we've got some sirens going through. So if you hear the sirens, they're not coming after us. At least as far as we know,
So
they're
far.
not. So just overlook that. Well, Ron, if someone needed to get in touch with you or your group, how would they do that?
We have, of course, phone numbers, hotline phone numbers that they can reach 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'll give those out to you. I just have the first-time appointment number, and information it's a toll-free number, so it's 877-567-6051. And that's anywhere in the state. So again, that's 877-567-6051.
Okay.
That goes to our central access folks, and basically what they will do is they will direct and kind of screen the calls at that point, and they will check on insurance, payer sources, things like that, get demographic information, and then get you hooked up with the local mental health center in your area. So if anybody from the Dunlap area, anybody from Jasper, Whitwell, South Pittsburgh, you know, Tracy City, Grundy County, any of those areas, of course, call this toll-free number, then they would get hooked up with our mental health centers, you know, very, very close to them. The other number that's very, very important, of course, is our toll-free crisis service number, and that is 1-800-704-2651. And again, let me give you that out. 1-800-704-2651. That's for 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365 crisis services. So if anybody has any type of depression or any type of suicidal thoughts, any type of homicidal thoughts, any type of thoughts of self-harm, that's the number to call, and they are accessible, and they will get you taken care of. Basically, they do the screenings. They will come out and do an assessment in the home if need be. They will do an assessment certainly in the emergency room in the hospital if need be, or the police station if need be. But they will do a screening and assessment, and again, get you hooked up to local mental health services.
Okay, and so they just call those numbers in
Right.
any situation. Okay.
Right.
Can someone? One of the questions I had is, can anyone just walk up to one of your centers, just walk in and say, "Hey, I need some help"? And
Yeah. Absolutely. We have same-day services. Walk-in services are available basically between the normal working hours, 8 to 5. So anytime, like in our Dunlap office up here, if somebody needs some mental health services or needs to talk to somebody, even just getting information, they can swing by the office and stop by. They can go in the door and then talk to one of the workers there. And if we need to set up crisis services like a crisis screening, we can do that with our telehealth program. So they can go into the office, we can set them up, and then our crisis folks can be in contact via the telehealth, kind of like kids call it Skyping or you know,
right.
some of those things, you know. But we can get that set up and get them screened, and if need be, we can get them hospital services through that program. We can get medication services through that program also.
Okay,
so if they need to get their medications adjusted, they can pop by the office and we can get them on a walk-in basis.
Okay.
We can hook them up via telehealth again, even though we don't have a provider, you know, at that particular office. We can get them hooked up with the a provider, maybe up in Cookville or someplace that has an opening on their slot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we do have that. Walk-in capability is always available. So we want to encourage people, if you need some help, definitely walk in.
Well, can someone say if I had someone that I thought, maybe a family member that I thought might be on the verge of needing help, could I refer someone or anyone refer? How does that work?
You can, but people have to understand that it still is the person's prerogative to come in and get mental health services. Sometimes we as family members and even friends, see somebody in our community, maybe in our church, that needs some mental health services, and we want to pick up the phone and call on behalf of them. And really that part we really can't do, because whoever it is has to sign themselves in. They have to basically authorize us to get treatment. And so that's one of the big things that basically we want everybody to understand is that if somebody doesn't want mental health services, they have the right to refuse that. It's only if they're homicidal or suicidal that we have to be a little more proactive, with that. But you can certainly call and say, hey, I've got, Uncle Smith, whoever, an uncle that maybe needs some help or assistance, and we can take that information down, but then we really can't act on that until he actually calls to get something
y'all
set
can't
up.
call them, they have to call you.
Yeah, they really need to call us.
Oh, okay. Well, you mentioned insurance a while ago. I was going to ask you how the program works when someone gets involved. Is it self-pay insurance? How does that work?
That works actually through the central access, the first number that I gave. Basically what they will do is they will screen and see if folks have insurance. If they do have insurance, they'll work with their insurance companies on getting a payment plan or whatever set up and going. Folks can have TennCare. That's we take a lot of TennCare folks, so that's not a problem. And again, the central access folks will screen those and get that TennCare information. And then if folks don't have any type of a payer source, basically we can try to get them set up with Safety Net. And the Safety Net is a program from the state that is set up for specifically behavioral health services. So if you don't qualify for TennCare, we try to get you in and get you to qualify for Safety Net. The state has recently just relaxed those services, actually the qualifications for those services. And so we're actually getting more and more people enrolled in that Safety Net program. Good. So that's been very, very beneficial to our clients here in Tennessee, of course.
And so you wouldn't, if someone weren't able, you wouldn't turn them down?
No. We would not. We would see anybody that would walk through the door that had a need, and then we would work out something with them, whether it was a reduced, payment plan or something. But if somebody needs help, we will take you. We will work with you certainly.
Good, because that was a lot of people, again, they think, well, if I go, people think I'm crazy, and it's not always that at all.
Not at all.
There's a lot of issues that people have to go through in life,
right.
And sometimes people are better at handling those issues than others,
right.
And others need help.
Correct.
And that's what y'all are here for.
That's what we're here for. And like I said, when my wife was involved with a very serious motor vehicle accident about 10 years ago, I found that of course, I went into the office all the time, but I was talking to my colleagues, of course. Yeah. And that was kind of my therapy, if you please, to try to work through that, because I almost lost my wife and my 2 kids, in that wreck. And that's pretty life-changing.
Yeah, it's traumatizing.
That's very much so. And so, it's very, very important to understand that, no, it's not, when people refer to mental health clients, it's not crazy anything. It's all of us dealing with issues in life and how we handle those issues. And some people maybe are better equipped to handle those issues than others, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean we all don't need some help every once in a while. So.
Right. Well, what about we mentioned medication a while ago? Mm-hmm. Is that something y'all can do?
Yes. Yeah, we can do the medication, if there's any needs along that line, and we do treat a lot of folks with medications with, depression and bipolar and schizophrenia and, a lot of those issues. And we have really, really good success. We have really, really good doctors and nurse practitioners that are psychiatric nurse practitioners that work with the doctors. They're supervised by psychiatrists. And basically they do a really, really good job with the medication issues with our clients. And anyhow, yeah, that's again one thing that we do work with people on, and a lot of times people will try a medication. Somebody may prescribe it, even possibly at a doctor's office, a primary care doctor's office, and folks will take it for a week and say, well, that didn't help. That doesn't do me any good. And what a lot of folks don't understand is that the medications that we typically use are very, very slow reacting medications, and so they just take time to get into your system. And oftentimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's even 3 weeks or longer even to get into your system to get to that therapeutic dose where it actually is helping you. So that's where, again, we try to work with folks on medications like that, and trying to, do a lot of educating, on that.
And speaking of the education, I'm sure a lot of people don't realize there's actually drugs that are out there to help them with their
oh yes,
issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And just because you're taking a medication for a short period of time doesn't mean you have to be on it the rest of your life either. It may be just that you need to get through a really, really bad thing that's happening in your life. Maybe it's a death of a spouse or a death of a family member or something like that, and you might need something for depression, or possibly something for anxiety, or something like that. So yeah, those are things, medications that we use that are not necessarily a lifetime. A lot of folks think that just because you start on medication, then you have to be on the rest of your life.
Right.
And that's not the case. We have many, many folks that maybe need it for a month or 2 or 3 or whatever it might be.
Well, other than the prescribing of drugs, on the other side, with not prescribing drugs, what are some of the services you offer as far as like the counseling or one-on-one with people?
We have really good counselors that come into the office, of course, and work with our clients. We do all kinds of individual therapy. That's probably predominantly what we do. We work predominantly with individual therapy on everybody, or with everybody that needs it. We do some family therapy and family counseling, some marriage counseling. Occasionally we do that too, where we have a conflict with spouses that can't get resolved. Those types of things. We do groups. We have anxiety groups occasionally. A lot of the there's been, of course, a movement in the state to cut back on any of the opioids or any of the benzodiazepines. Those are anxiety medications, and the benzodiazepines are for anxiety, but people can get hooked on those very quickly and very easily, and unfortunately we've had many folks that come in that are addicted to those, and so then we have to cut that back and wean them off of that.
Sure.
And then teach again a better way of dealing with anxiety other than just taking a pill. We find that our therapy, especially group therapy, works really, really well with again giving folks the tools that they need to deal with that anxiety with something other than a medication.
And what about one of the things I wanted to ask you is your clientele? Because a lot of times people think that only certain type of people are fit in this category, but do you see people from all walks of life in your program?
Oh yes, we do. The mental health issues are no respecter of persons.
Yeah.
Literally so. I mean, we have doctors, we have attorneys, we have very professional people, folks that work in the hospitals, nurses, and I mean, we have the whole gamut. Folks that work in the cities, and as far as the county jobs, even folks that are in the legal offices, legislature sometimes, those types of things, and folks sometimes think that they're the only one that has an issue, and I want folks to understand that no, you're not the only one that has an issue. All of us, every last one of us, have family members that are dealing with issues that they may need some help with, some assistance with, and that's what we're here for.
Well, good, because in other words, mental health does not have any boundaries. In other words,
No boundaries, no
it's,
no financial limitations. It doesn't matter if you make $10 million a year or nothing, basically.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what type of work you're in or if you're not working at all. It doesn't matter, that it has no socioeconomic boundaries whatsoever.
And speaking of the money aspect, how are y'all funded?
We are funded through the billing, through the TennCare. We basically bill TennCare for the services that we have that we offer and provide. We bill the safety net. We bill private insurance. All of that. Occasionally, we will get a small grant from like a county. Or something along that line. I think we have one grant. It's not a lot. It's about a $3,500 a year grant from one of the counties. That's helpful. Basically, any help that we can get is helpful. Because we do operate on a really, really thin margin of profitability. We do have to stay profitable. Otherwise, of course, we would have to close our doors.
Right.
But it's a very thin margin. So we are a not-for-profit agency. So we're not out to make money. We are simply out to stay in business so that we can continue to provide services for folks.
I imagine without your services, there'd be a lot of people that would really need
suffer tremendously. Yes, yeah. We don't want to lose that. We had an office up here in Dunlap. I think probably about 22 years ago. I want to say that was closed. I know the office that I worked at up in Grundy County, same thing. It was basically closed about 22 years ago. And it was basically a really tough time financially for the company, and
Right.
They were pulling back into the main office, which is in Jasper. And I think a lot of our folks suffered, in the outer line counties in the rural area. And it's been really, really a mission of mine to get those services back out into the counties and back out into the areas where they belong, which is, up here in Dunlap and up in Tracy City. And basically make it more accessible for folks to reach us, and that's proved very, very successful, and we're very, very happy about that.
Well, I remember I was on the board back then in those years.
Oh, is that right? Huh?
Yes, and
Wow.
I remember we had a truck driver who was going through a lot of issues, and he was driving through town, and his plan was he was going to just run over whoever he could and kill himself but he happened to go by and see our office.
Praise the Lord.
So he pulled over and went in and got the help he needed instead of killing himself, as well as who knows how many more.
Yeah.
And so.
And it's success stories like that we hear that drives me even more. I want to get those offices back out in the county where they belong. And thankfully we have one here in Dunlap. We now have a full-time office. We have staff that are manning it virtually full-time, and we're in the process of doing the same thing up in Tracy City. We've had a little satellite office up there for some time, but we're going to be in the old high school up there shortly, and that we want to man that also full-time.
Now the office here in Sequatchie County, you mentioned, is Fredonia Road?
Yes, yeah, Fredonia Mountain Road. I think it's 121 Fredonia Road. So we're really close. In fact, we're just, I think, across the main road here, just a little bit from where we sit here right now. So it's again trying to get those offices back out in the counties where they belong.
Well, good. And do you have, or I should say, do you go to places like churches and other organizations to speak to them, to let them know about your services?
I can, yes. If we get requests, along that line, we will be happy to share that information. We'd love to share that information to get the word out, because again, a lot of folks just don't know. They don't know that we have a full-time office up here right now. I was up in the Grundy High School some time ago, sharing with the classes up there all day long, I think it was. that again, just meeting with students and talking about mental health and what that really means. And you know, when we say, man, I'm having a down day, I'm feeling sad today, well, that's, you're talking about your mental health, you know, and it shouldn't be a stigma, but yet with so many folks, it's a stigma, you know, they don't want to have anything to do with anything called mental health at all.
Right.
So we're trying to break those barriers down and break those walls down if we can by getting that word out. But yeah, we'll be happy to talk to any group that we can.
Well, Ron, it's certainly good to have you today. It's about time for us to close, and we appreciate you coming to Dunlap and speaking to people on mental health. And we'll get those numbers. We have a Facebook page, and soon to have some other pages going on that people can go to and look. And so we'll put those numbers on our Facebook page so they'll be able to go back to that.
Wonderful, and we appreciate you getting the good word out.
We
Thank you so much,
appreciate your
Glenn.
time. Thanks.
Thank you.